What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome. Hello, and how's everybody doing tonight? As you can clearly see, we do not have a Gregson tonight. I don't know why I'm wearing the headphones, so damn weird. Yep, short version of that story is the real world, work, etc. Has gotten in the way. We hoped by postponing to tonight. Why is my rundown broken? Hold on. There we go. Yes, and as you can see, Streamlabs decided to have an update today, and I don't have the usual studio mode that I usually have, so we're just going to do it live. Alicia, Joe, welcome. Hello. How are you guys doing this fine evening? That didn't take long at all. Apparently, my intro music is no longer good because I already got a copyright claim on it. So, we're off to a banging start. I got to find new creator-friendly music. Not that we use it all that often, but gosh dang it. There we go. Not that we use it all that often, but it is nice when I am here to be able to it is nice when I'm here to kind of and it would be nice to start the show on time while we're figuring stuff out in the background. But apparently that's a no-go. So I gotta go digging into the depths of Facebook to find out what music they allow and what I can't even fuck with that. All right, what music they allow and what of that music is allowed by the Facebook. Can't really use the car idling at the moment as few things. It's below me, and it is rowdy. And I don't know if the mic would actually pick it up up here, but yeah. But at any rate, sorry, Alicia got a chocolate cake shake from Portillo's. I'm doing pretty good. Nice. Sounds delicious, and we'll just say calorie rich. At any rate, Joe brought it up about my car. That process has begun. Record the car. It has blown piston rings, Joe. maybe. Wow, I'm actually sweating. Why am I sweating? Anyway, what was I saying? Maybe once we get the new motor built and the car's up and running, I'll do something to that effect. Record let's see, record like a 5-minute of it just sitting there and idling, because there's a mildly decent chance that we end up with a not at all just regular coyote idle. To be determined. You're really leaning into the not the supervisor thing. At any rate, today we're going to be talking about, as you can see right here, tonight we're going to be talking about Nashville Fairgrounds and a recent piece of information that I was able to come across regarding that track and the struggles it faces with its neighbors. If you don't know, Nashville Fairgrounds is the short track down in, would you believe it, Nashville. We also have, apparently some BMW owners are reporting getting, let's just say, Spider-Man themed stuff against their will in their cars. And I did also want to talk about the new Rumblebee and Direct Connection, and how, even though Mopar insists on doing silly stuff like throwing every influencer with on the planet, not named us, a 6-pack, tell them to go nuts with it, why the new Direct Connection stuff is actually pretty dang exciting. At any rate, and then of course whatever unhinged commentary you guys have, or questions, concerns, any of that sort of stuff. Obviously, that'll help us keep the show rolling and all that sort of stuff. Man, I'm always reminded when Greg's not here how much stuff is going on in the background that I can check on and take care of while he is speaking and while oh gosh, mute you. While he's talking, and I could take care of stuff in the background of everything. But it opens Pandora's box. When is Pandora's box not actually open to you guys? It's not like you follow any. You're respectful, you're kind, you're nice. You keep things nice, good, and are mostly well behaved. Actually, the regulars are all well behaved, for the most part. and everything. But you guys do love your tangents. So, at any rate, uh, let's jump into it. So, as a lot of you guys know, uh, actually, this was a lot. As a lot of you guys know, uh, like racetracks in this country in general, a lot of them are in trouble or having to find different, uh, however you want to put it, different creative methodology to be to remain solvent. But like if you follow Cleus and stuff, the issues he's having with the developers buying the land around his track, and that's like kind of one of the more mild things. If you know. If you know his excuse me, his whole situation, it's one of the more mild ones out there. But the concern with him is that there's going to be homes near a racetrack or racetracks. In his case, people are going to complain, and that's the beginning of the death of most racetracks. See, Joe, you could. We only get the tame version of Alicia. Nice. You would think it has something to do with HOAs, but it's basically just people who are moving to an area next to a racetrack, unfamiliar that, lo and behold, racetracks make noise, and then start complaining about it. Yeah, HOAs can be a pain in the ass, but like, let me put it to you this way: I have an HOA, and they're a huge, humongous pain in my ass. But they have never, when I worked at the golf course and we had events and we were playing music and stuff, they never once complained about it or anything like that. And the golf course I worked at was pretty much right up against the development that I live in and everything. But one of the more famous racetracks dealing with, how do I put this? Unfriendly neighbors is the fairgrounds at Nashville. So not Nashville Super Speedway, where they have the NASCAR race every year, but the fairgrounds, the short track, which is one of the oldest racetracks in the country. Like, it is legitimately older than Indianapolis. And they have been fighting for years, whether it be, the sprawl of Nashville coming in on it, and people being like, well, the racetrack's too loud, blah blah blah, to where now they have to run a truncated schedule to appease that. And then of course you have the MLS team, the Nashville, who gives a crap, moving in right on the same property, and we'll get to them in a second. But they have had, so the owners and the promoters and everything, they're just really hesitant to put money into that track because the future's uncertain. There's a referendum and stuff. Not a referendum, but like basically it's going before the board of the town in November. Which, basically, because there's actually owners and investors and promoters who want to come in and start sprucing up the racetrack, but they don't know if the town's going to have any way near anything. They're going to have the support, and this is where the what you call it. This is where the neighbors, the soccer team, the soccer owner, what is it? Where they come into play, and where they have. So the track's not in disrepair, but it could use some TLC. The track is functional. It works. It's not a dump. It's not a style. Not any of that sort of stuff. But it does need some TLC. It does need some updating. They do have people want to go in there and spruce up the place, put up a sound wall to be nice to the neighbors, all this other sort of stuff. You have relatively large series looking to go race who do race there. The Cars Tour being one of them. The Cars Tour this year, owned by, among others, Dale Jr., made a conscious effort, even though Nashville is a little further than they like to travel, generally speaking. They host a race there because they think keeping that racetrack alive is important, which it is. So at any rate, I was listening to the Dale Jr. download, and if you want the full nine yards, so to speak, about this, I suggest you go listen to the most recent Dale Jr. download full episode. But what I found interesting, and what I mean by interesting, is just downright dirty, no good tactics, is apparently the owner of the soccer team, John Ingram, is basically using paid actors to go out and canvass residents, to canvass locals, whatever you want to call them. And they're basically feeding a whole bunch of false information to these people, chief among which saying, oh, the track's going to go away anyway, so we might as well just do it now. Just put that final nail in the coffin, which is not true. Track has no interest in going away. Like I said before, they have investors, they have promoters, they have people who want to come into the track, spruce it up, and make it, again, because it's an integral part of Nashville's history. It's one of the oldest racetracks in the country. So, the soccer owner, because again, they share the same property. And I don't know if there's much crossover for attention in the form of, well, should we go? We're going to the fairgrounds. Should we go to the race tonight or go to the soccer game? I don't know if there's how many fans cross over. But it just seems to me like they just don't want the competition. And or they want the property to do whatever they want with it. I don't know. And apparently it's all legal to sit here and tell people, sign this petition to get rid of the racetrack using false information. Like I said, spreading rumors that the track is gonna cease operations and it's already in disrepair, blah blah blah. They're spreading these lies, basically, allegedly, to get these signatures on a oh god, what the hell is basically to get all these signatures to basically put before the town of Nashville and say, hey, look, nobody wants the track here, when it's all complete and utter nonsense. Which in my estimation is complete bullshit. And I am so happy that, what's his face? Hold on. Mute you. I'm happy, like, the likes of Dale Jr., the Cars Tour, and, Marcus Smith, who is now part of the Cars Tour, but he has a lot to do with racetracks in NASCAR. I think he owns SMI, one of the two big, or he's not owner of SMI, but he's a part of SMI. I think it's SMI. I forget. There's two big conglomerates that own the majority of the tracks that NASCAR races at. Petition. Thank you, Joe. So, like, it's just like Nashville was already in not a bad state, but like a teetering state. You have these people coming in who want to invest, but now they have an uncertain future. And here's the thing. Back in 2011, when I think the soccer team came in, or no, I'm sorry, back in 2011, there was a vote put to the citizens of Nashville, and an overwhelming majority of them want the racetrack there, want the Fairgrounds racetrack to stay. When Ingram brought the soccer team in, he was like, yeah, no, we're not going to, We love having the racetrack as a neighbor. We want to have it. They even sponsored a couple of events and what have you. Uh or what, and now it just looks like he doesn't want him there because, again, is it competition? I guess if you looking for something random to do in Nashville on a Friday or Saturday night and you don't want to go to Broadway, are people really flipping a coin over going to a local short track to watch, you know, uh, late models race, all this other stuff, or soccer? Is that I guess there's some casual people who are like, oh, we could go to the race. That sounds like a cool idea. This could be uh that sort, or the soccer game. I don't know. I'm biased, obviously, but I don't. For my money, I don't. Again, I don't think there's much walk-in competition there. Like I said, this feels like something of a land grab or something like that, to where whoever you know can start to get the land, then start to develop it, and then the next thing you know, those people who live close to a soccer stadium are going to complain that how many ever home games they have, loud music, fan reaction, blah blah blah. I don't get it. But if they can get the land and then sell the land to developers or develop it, there's obviously money involved there. We got Random over on YouTube. He goes, I'm earlier than usual. Thank you. He goes, wait, never mind. 20 minutes back for some reason. No idea why it started you at the very start of the stream. And yes, it is just me. Greg is unfortunately caught up with some work stuff. Hopefully he will be back next week. So you can all put that in. Joe has some relatively unhinged ideas, but here's the thing. Like, if you suddenly have waves of vandalism in the area and they're racetrack supporters, it's going to give the public all the more reason to say, wait a minute, we don't want this element. Biggest thing you could do is just boycott soccer in Nashville. Or send respectful responses to Nashville FC or whatever the crap their soccer team is called. Like, to basically, if they post anything, to just respectfully sit there and go, stop lying about the racetrack. Something in that vein. Become a nuisance, but not a hazard. No, what I'm saying, Joe, is that if it doesn't matter if you do it or quote unquote hire paid actors or what have you, the optics aren't great. Think of it this way, right? Like, soccer stadium vandalized by race fans, or just soccer stadium vandalized, full stop. It's just it's a bad optic. Kill them with kindness, or just be a respectful pain in their ass. Like I said, best thing you could probably do is, again, go on their social media, and every time they post something, comment about they're lying about the racetrack. And like, when the soccer fans probably won't give two craps, but if you repeatedly do that and you get enough people to do that, it'll start to expose of some of the stuff that they're doing. Let's see here. Gabriel over on Facebook goes, have you ever seen a good strategy guide for flipping cars in order to get your dream project car and actually be able to afford to put nicely together quickly? Not really. There's a ton of series. Greg actually was thinking about doing that series way back when. Like at the early days of shifting lanes. Believe it or not, it was either do something like that or the Volvo wagon. And to be 100% honest, the Volvo wagon was very, very good for us. But as far as the strategy is concerned, I mean, let's put it to you this way, right? Like to do your dream build, what are we talking in terms of budget? 50K, 100K? Uh, so you basically have to, with your starting budget, find a car that needs some TLC. Like, number one thing I can tell people if you're looking to flip cars is get really good at detailing a car yourself. Like, really good at detailing the car. Curb appeal matters. So if you buy a cheap beater for $1,500, but you clean the crap out of it, you put a good layer of wax on it, you clean the interior, you maybe even, I don't want to say steam clean, but you really, really clean it, shampoo the interior as best you can, clean it as thoroughly as you humanly possibly can, you might be able to flip that $1,500 car for $2,000. Rinse and repeat for a $2,000 car. Sell it for $3,000, or whatever. But you're going to have to figure out expenses for all of that sort of stuff. Because if your margin on the first car is $500, right? But you spend $500 in cleaning equipment, it's like, okay, the first car paid for that. Let me do this again with another $1,500 car and move on. What are the material costs? Like all this other sort of stuff. And then, you're obviously going to want to do uh, oil change, fluid flush. Basically, dress the car up and make it run as good as it possibly can. Because until you get to like selling a car for about $10,000 car, people are looking for a cheap car that isn't going to like, how do I put this? That is just nice enough for them to commute, to drive around. It's the first car for a kid, etc., etc. But you also, to do it quickly, you have to price the cars to move. So you have to eat into some of your margin, which is tricky. And then once you get a slightly larger budget, you can start looking at cars to try to tackle uh, some minor mechanical issues, brake stuff, um, you know, do a stage 0 on a car if it's running rough to see if that fixes it. Um, Plugs, coils, coil wires if they have them, you know, uh, all that sort of stuff. And then, but again, it's all about a business, right? This is how you learn a business is the money in equals money out, which is tough. Um, so program an autoresponder for the page so it propagates. Yes, it's a lot more meaningful if it's a real person that engages, Joe. That's the guerrilla social media stuff. Um, I see what you're saying, but a lot of social platforms now are on the lookout for bots, and people won't take bots seriously. Uh, but like that, if you're going to be effective, it has to be real people and it has to be something. If you do it for 3 months straight, someone who's a regular on their page may kind of look and go, huh, what is this guy on about? He keeps going. You're going to be the annoying guy. People are going to tell you to shut up. Your comments may even be deleted. But, and I'm not saying you specifically, Joe. I'm just saying, like, if anyone were to do anything, just respectively sit here and go, why are you lying about the racetrack? Why aren't you? What's your end goal? Like, and they're not going to respond. And again, they may even delete the comments. But if you're becoming more of a pain in the ass and more people will start to catch on to that and go, now they're deleting multiple or having to deal with a crowd of people asking the same question, it might cause them to back off of the nonsense that they've been trying to do. Or they may continue to do it, may continue to be underhanded, may continue to lie to get public opinion on their side and everything. Or what have you. You don't know, but a grassroots social campaign might just be what it needs to, and it might not. But Joe goes, my dream car is for sale, $5,500, 1974 Plymouth Duster, numbers matching in KB1 powder blue. I mean, that's what the space is all about. We're all into what we're all into. Um, in fact, I think it's really, really cool for someone to have a dream vehicle that's relatively affordable, because that's roughly a third of the, no, I shouldn't say a third, almost a third of the price what it's going to cost me to get my motor back, or the motor I want. Uh, with the head work and the cams and all this other sort of stuff. Joe goes, we had the sound nuts at Laguna Seca. Laguna Seca is another one. Legendary American track, constantly under barrage from locals, people who, now that's different, because I don't know how much of a residential area is around the track, because if I remember correctly, Laguna Seca is around like a quote unquote national park or a state park or something. Alicia goes, Chad, have you tried selling or trading a kidney for a new engine? No, because I don't want to get too deep into the Mustang, because again, like I started the show, we might have Mustang news soon. And well, actually, we will. How good that news is, I don't want to get too. I can't get into the details, but we will have Mustang news, you know, relatively shortly here. Hopefully within the next month or so. But I have my, I have a plan for the motor. Doing it. Let me put it to you this way: if I can, I don't want to phrase it like this, but like, there's a budget I have in mind, and if it's just me paying out said budget, that gets me a good short block, get the heads repaired, not repaired, but refreshed with the set of cams I want. And then hopefully just starting that process, it picks up, gains traction. We start to see a boom in views. It's going to be long form videos as well as short form on this YouTube channel, which means theoretically, if it takes off, a significant rise in revenue for shifting lanes, just because of how long form stuff plays on YouTube when it comes to CPMs and getting paid out and stuff like that. So I have a bunch of different plans. I am talking with some people, but no guarantees. But I have kind of a wish list of parts, and we can go from there. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into the woods, too deep into the plans, too deep into the what's going to happen, because one way or the other, the build is going to start soon. And when you guys know, or when that does happen, you guys, like this, for those who were here for the Silver Mustang, you guys will be among the first to know. Because how I did it back then was I filmed everything from start to finish. And I didn't start posting videos until I knew the end date, right? Like with that video series, the end date was first drive. The end date was more the dyno video or videos. So once I knew we were a week out from or a couple weeks, once we knew exactly when that was going to be, I started putting out the videos. So it was literally a video every week until we hit the end. And then as I was kind of going to create more content, that's when the fire happened. It'll be very similar in this case. So the build will start, but first video won't drop. Probably the first video for it won't drop until probably 8 to 10 weeks after the fact. Now, the only difference is that I will be editing all of these videos myself this time. I already have a shit ton of content already filmed. telling the story from the silver car to the black car. That I really need to start just picking at that, slowly editing that, so I don't have hours of footage to scrub through. That being said, editing vlogs, you believe it or not, editing vlogs is way easier than editing the short form content that I make. Yeah, because it's less B-roll centric. But the short version is when that build starts, I will let you guys know. I won't share everything, but I will have sneak peeks on here. I will have, you know, pictures of, let's just say, the engine. Oh, look at the engine, guys. You know, and I will give you a little bit of tidbits here and there. But I don't know. Maybe you guys want some extra insight and you'll still watch the videos. I have no idea, but I don't. Basically, once that build start, we'll have a Mustang update every week on this show. And then, you know, obviously when the videos do come out in their long form, that when the videos are released, obviously you guys will know. I don't know what day of the week they'll be published on. Probably, I have to look. But you guys, let me put it this way. You guys will know, you guys will have some inside stuff. You guys will likely end up with some inside knowledge. Not likely. You guys will have some of the insider, more detailed knowledge of what went on in the video that got cut out, that was a little dry for a video, all that sort of stuff. But just know things are happening. The process has started. And from there, you know, once I figure some things out, then the process will actually begin. But it's not going to be a fast process, because the second I figure out what engine's going in it, it's going to be a 4 to 6, maybe even 8-week process just for the engine to be built. And then obviously in that time frame, I could have it up. I got to figure out when Jeff and Jesse have when I can get in on their schedule, unless, you know, that's all part of the conversation, because obviously Blue Sky are my go-to guys, but there are other things in the works that potentially I could be partnering with, say, another YouTube channel that will remain nameless until, because frankly, there's a couple, that might do the build. So that, like I said, there's so many moving parts right now. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, because what looks like might happen today might be completely different next week. And it might be completely different the week after that. But I am very excited. I know I'm kind of deadpan and kind of like poo-pooing it and putting it down. It doesn't sound like I'm excited. Very monotone, all that sort of stuff. I am thoroughly excited for this process to start. I have not had that car run for so long. I need to drive it. Yes, Joe, I have gotten into the trunk. I'm just excited to drive that thing again. And if I can have, like we've talked about the possible engine options, right? I want it to rev to 8,500 RPM. I'm going to be talking to people in the not too distant future here on whether or not we can push that RPM even higher on 93 octane. You know, I want it to be some variation of a Stroker Coyote, because you don't see all those that often. I would love for it to be either a 5.4 or a 5.5. Again, it depends. You know, the end goal is somewhere between 600 and 650 horsepower with the pie in the sky, perfect scenario, stars align, the gods of horsepower are just 670 or above, because then I can sit here and say I have a naturally aspirated Corvette or Coyote that makes more horsepower, or as much horsepower, as a C8 Corvette Z06. Right? Like those are the goals. You know, I have the RPM stuff or the displacement stuff is I'm leaning more towards the displacement stuff, but at the very least, it'll be 8,500 RPM. It'll make 600 horsepower. At the very least, theoretically speaking, based on my research. Yeah, Joe, I was thinking on Monday or Tuesday, but I really need to see what day I have to do the responsible business YouTuber thing and uh get into the weeds of when our audience is on. I want to go back and look at uh, short version of the story. There's going to be a strategy, right? Like on the day of the video dropping, there's going to be a short coinciding with it that is of a similar topic to drive traffic. I haven't figured out exactly whether or not it's going to be a tease for the video. Not necessarily a tease, but a quick hitter. You know how shorts are, 3 minutes. I have to plan that stuff out, but there'll be a short, and then that will link to the long form to hopefully get as much reach, exposure, etc. It's going to end up, the shorts performance are going to be very important for the build as a whole. But yeah, like having it on a Monday or a Tuesday would make sense, but so would having it on a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, or what have you, for the simple fact of we can always talk about the previous video on the show. Whether or not we want only the OGs to see it, or the people who are like first in the comments or what have you. Or we post it on Thursday, which gives 6 days for people to watch. For me to say, hey, if you want to come on in and get some insight into the build and get more details, come to the live, yada, 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 or what have you. Like, I feel like I can trust a lot of you guys in chat to watch the videos and have comments, questions, maybe even some concerns about all that stuff in here. But short version is I need to do the due diligence to give these things the best opportunity for success. And I can't nail down a day. I can almost guarantee you it won't be on days where the live stream is, for the simple fact of it'll be killed in the algorithm. That's the only one I know for certain. We're not big enough. We don't have a big enough audience to have a show and long form content go out on the same day. As much as I would like that to be different, it's just the way of things. All right, so moving right along. Where is it? Trying to find it. That's it. Prelude. Where did this go? Bugatti tire garage. There we go. So, over on X, Polymarket posted a tweet effectively saying BMW owners are furious at that after the auto manufacturer. Let's try that again. Reading, good, me, do. New. BMW owners are furious after the automaker pushed a full-screen Spider-Man ad onto their dashboard displays in customer vehicles. Hey, hello and welcome. We are now more international than usual. I think you're our first ever viewer from the Middle East. So welcome, Al Sager. I apologize if I said that wrong. But Chris is here, and he's late. All good, brother. The fact that you made an effort to show up, it's all we can ever ask. Like I tell people all the time, the fact that you guys take time out of your day to come and help support the show, have fun, hang out, talk cars with us, is more than is freaking awesome to us. Don't ever feel like you have to. Attendance is required, but we appreciate you all for stopping in and spending some time with us. Let's see here. Our friend, is it Al Sager or Al Seeger? I'm just going to go with Al Sager for now. Used to have a 2006 Dodge Durango. Loved it with all its flaws. Had the 5.7 Hemi. Was that the first year they went full size? Or the first or that body style was the first year they went full size? I forget off the top of my head. But I remember driving those quite a bit when I worked at Enterprise. I didn't actually, they felt pretty fine. It was just that era of Chrysler vehicle had interiors that, let's just, to be kind, didn't age gracefully. Chris goes, we are on vacation at the Red Caboose Motel in Ronks, PA. We love having you be a part of the show. Started the full size in 04. There you go. I remember driving that a lot. I remember driving its Chrysler cousin, the Aspen, in a pretty crazy snowstorm back in the day. Like, probably 45 minutes from our office, picking up a customer, which hindsight may not have been the best idea, but nothing ever happened to that thing. I remember them driving pretty decently. They rode pretty good. My abiding memory of all Chryslers from that era was the infotainment system and being like, it was used. It was used to be very cheap. Wait, starting from 21K used for the Hemi. Huh, interesting. But, like we were talking about, we all know BMW likes to charge for subscriptions, for heated seats, among other things. Now they're showing ads in cars. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that before I kind of go into I have two ways of viewing at this, and I think one of them might actually surprise you. And still people won't buy it because of how bad it was the dealer in Kuwait. I mean, dealers make a huge, huge difference. Here's the thing about the BMW stuff. Like, we hate the subscription stuff. It's nonsensical. Don't make me pay a fee for something you sold that's already in the car that you sold to me. If you want me to pay for it up front, or don't include the feature. Simple as that. I'm guessing from an economies of scale, a manufacturing thing, it's just cheaper for them to include every car with a heated seat versus having some cars without it. Just include it. It's your BMW has a reputation for being like really stingy with the standard features, right? Like for years, the whole BMW floor mat thing was a thing. You know, it either didn't come with floor mats, stock or standard, or it came with really chintzy cheap ones. You know, just make it a standard feature. Nobody who's going into BMW is looking for a deal. Yeah, it's the same thing with like, so getting to the ads, like Al Sager, like we don't like ads on the smart TV. I don't like ads, period. Which is weird to say because basically the whole Shifting Lanes business model is based off of ads. It is the way of things. I would like to see these companies that especially pay a subscription service to figure out a way to be better with their money. than to be like, oh, we're making 10 billion original shows. We spent a lot of money on that. Here's ads, or pay us an extra $10 a month or whatever to not get the ads. Now, I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that BMW will give you the opportunity to go adless or get a premium like YouTube Premium or what have you, where there's no ads. What I'm saying is the fact that you get this full screen ad showing up on your infotainment system, unprovoked, unprompted, and I'm seriously hoping that it happened. I don't know what instances this happened in, but I'm seriously hoping that they happened while the car was in park or stationary, etc. Because to just have a random Spider-Man ad in the middle of whatever the hell you're doing while driving is distracting. When you're not expecting something to come over the radio, you're like, what the? And the natural reaction is to look down at it. You know, so like on that front, to me, it's low down business practices because now we have OEMs, auto manufacturers, selling ad space. Like, what are we doing? But on the flip side to that, how long has the radio been in a car? Or in cars in general? Um, I thought I turned down the frequency of that. I definitely turned down the frequency of them on YouTube, but whatever. If it's invasive, someone on YouTube let me know and I'll fix it. But cars, when it was just AM radio or FM radio, or go all the way back to AM radio, right? In between programs, there were ads, there were commercials. Like when we grew up watching TV, there were commercials. So ads playing in a car isn't a new thing. The methodology in which it is being presented in this case is a new thing. But it's not a new thing. Fast forward to the Spotify, whatever the hell you use, streaming music service or podcast service. If you don't have the premium, there's ads. So while I think it's absolutely, the thing I don't like about this is BMW has figured out a way to have a revenue stream that they are making money, but they are not passing any of the savings, any of this income stream that has nothing to do with their consumers from a financial point of view. And they're not passing it along to their consumers, right? Like, let's just say, hypothetically, this ad deal they have would allow them to sell every car they make for less. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm just using this as a round number. Let's just say, hypothetically, all this money they're getting from ad revenue or selling advertising to these whatever, in this case, Marvel or Disney, if we want to follow that all the way to the top. Let's just say, hypothetically, it makes every car $500 cheaper or $1,000 cheaper. Are they passing that on to customers? I don't think they are. Maybe they are. I don't think so. And brings up another question. The subscription service for your heated seats, if you're getting served an ad, you know what I feel like I should get for helping you out, for helping you make money? My ears. How about you give me the heated seats and maybe I just have to sit through ads? Seems to work for Spotify, like I mentioned, YouTube, like with the YouTube Premium, although I don't know if that's really taken off as well as they had hoped. All these other things, all these other services offer you, Disney Plus, Netflix, all these services offer you plans to pay a little bit more so you don't have to deal with ads. You can still watch all of their shows, all of the programming, all that sort of stuff. You just have ads in it. So why not, if you're going to charge a subscription for the seats, play ads? Why not give me the heated seats? Again, it's literally costing BMW no money to have these heated seats in the cars, whether they're being paid for or not. Al goes, I think BMW needs the ads money. I think every OEM does, to be 100% honest. Toyota has flat out came out and said that it's very important for them to trim the fat on their company, trim the trim levels, basically get back to the core vehicles, sell those so they don't have as much financial bloat with as many models as they have. You see model trimming going all over the automotive world right now. And frankly, I have absolutely no sympathy for all these manufacturers because they did it to themselves. They let their dealers charge outrageous prices for cars, whether you want to say enthusiast cars or just cars in general, especially during late 2020, early 2021, and so on, with these ridiculous premiums on the car. And now their OEMs got greedy and said, we're not getting a cut of that. Let's get in on it. So now the bloat of the cost of a car has become insane. And guess what? People aren't buying new cars because of it. And then you have the whole thing that we've talked about ad nauseum here about how cars have to have all this tech and equipment and all this other sort of stuff in it that, again, raises the price of the car, which in my estimation is making drivers worse. I don't mind these passive systems. I don't mind them at all. But modern drivers rely on them. Oh, I'm changing lanes. Beep, beep, beep. Oh, I guess I'm not. As opposed to what we were taught. Mirror, over the shoulder, mirror, turn. People don't do that anymore. I think we've talked about Slate. We've talked about that other company that's making the small internal combustion truck. We've talked about that $30,000 small pickup truck from Ford. There's a reason why all of these vehicles are popping up now, because people don't want to pay ridiculous prices to have a whole bunch of things they never asked for. Al does make a good point. Maybe they are paid to test the concept of the ads. I mean, maybe. Like, it would be nice to sit here and go, would you like to sign up for beta testing for new products that could include ads in your car or other stuff? In exchange, we'll take $500 off the purchase price of your car or whatever. I don't know. Seems like a win-win for me. Yeah, BMW doesn't end up with as much in their pocket, but at the flip side, it is a potential business thing. If you tell someone up front when they are buying the car, here's an offer to where you can do this, and let's just say, if you're willing to opt into our ads program, you can have the heated seats for no additional cost. Again, it's not costing BMW any extra money. I hate the model. I hate that everything has become ad-centric on whatever platform you go on. And it would really piss me off if you go to press the ignition and all of a sudden you get a Spider-Man ad. Or, God forbid, a movie I don't even actually give a crap about. At least I like Spider-Man. It's like, go to start my car and it's The Notebook 3. Ugh. That would send me into a blind rage. And that's why I'll never have one. Chris goes, I'll never have one. We'll stick with my 11-year-old car. Joe goes, we die like men. It's not even that. It's that you're using your eyes. You have a standard practice to do things like change lanes, cross an intersection, just drive around town. You're more aware of your surroundings as opposed to letting some radar or camera or whatever tell you what your surroundings are. Just more aware. Al goes, as far as I know, Chinese manufacturers cannot sell their cars in the U.S. right now because of policies and such, but they are taking over here in Kuwait and the Middle East. I mean, here's the thing. We've been talking about China for a while. We knew back when they were making blatant ripoff and copies of cars, and when they went it themselves, they were making shit cars. We knew that you don't have the industrial machine that China has. Good or bad, whatever you want to say about it. That they weren't going to figure it out. And then you have the boom in electric cars, which removes a ton of the engineering exercise. Transmissions, engines, All that stuff. Not required with an electric car. So it fast tracks their ability to make an interior, design a bodywork, all that stuff. And then once that sort of, it's only a matter of time with the internal combustion. I mean, and I think the Chinese conversation goes back into the cars have so much weight, like this whole nonsense about in Europe about they're going to monitor you as you drive. And let's just say you have a lazy eye and the car's going to say, nope, you're drunk, and stop. Or it's just going to monitor you. Something that, and your car's connected to the internet. All that information, what you're doing, what you look like, how you're driving, all that stuff is available to someone. Whether it be an American manufacturer or a Chinese manufacturer. You know. I'm not here to sit here and talk about what we should and shouldn't do with China itself. I'm not here to sit here and say, anything really dive too deep down that particular political rabbit hole, because I don't like discussing that sort of stuff. But we saw with TikTok how China will use things that have seemingly nothing to do with intelligence gathering as a form of intelligence gathering. And that whole boondoggle. We know they are not shy about just blatantly copying and stealing anyone else's product, whether it be a car, whether it be a watch, a phone, military stuff. So, on the one hand, you don't want to piss them off. On the other hand, you don't really want to capitulate to them with absolutely everything. It's... At any rate, let's see here. Al goes, I believe the majority of new cars sold will all be Chinese in the next 5 years, and I'm speaking from an oil-rich country. They just good value. That's kind of what I've been saying. Like, here's the thing. If you could sell something that offers, on the surface at least, the same reliability, the same options, the same quote-unquote aesthetic appeal, and you can do it for 10%. Hell, if you could do it for 5% less, you are going to earn market share. Just look at what happened when Hyundai started making good stuff. It started offering the 100,000 mile warranty 10 years, or 10-year to 100,000 mile warranty. And the quality of their cars started going up. But their prices were below even the Toyotas, the Hondas, the Nissans. They exploded in popularity because now all of a sudden you had a little piece of paper that told you that if it went wrong, you didn't have to pay anything. On top of that, their quality got better. And people just started buying the absolute crap out of us. And then now they're in there, and then that led to Genesis, which is arguably making some of the most good-looking, comfortable luxury cars right now. Chuggas, I was taught that you don't change lanes until you see the front tires in the rearview mirror. Good luck, everybody else. China can send us all the A86 bodies and the 240Z bodies. I mean, stuff like that is cool, and it would be kind of neat if they can make that. It would be kind of cool if you could do a A86 body that had similar proportions to, say, a GR86, where you could put that body on that car. It's a unibody car, so it's not an easy task. But you have the body. Who knows? Maybe someone like Roadster Shop or import version of that particular company, i.e. people making chassis for everything, and having the capability to take whatever classic car you want and put in whatever type of suspension. So, like, you could, in theory, call up Roadster Shop. It's like, hey, I'm Joe. I got a 70 whatever Duster. I'd like it to have Mustang, S550 Mustang suspension and rear end. And they'll go, done. And now all of a sudden, Your Duster, you can put Mustang brakes on, Mustang suspension, Mustang, all that other stuff. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Mustang enthusiast. I'm just using that as an example. An abundant source of parts for say a classic car, and something that's going to handle a hell of a lot better than whatever suspension was on the car when it left the factory over 50 years ago. Schwartz Performance, I guess. But again, it all really comes down to me that like the reason you're seeing these cheap startups with these small trucks like Slate, the Ford, and I'm sorry, I forget the other company, but this is something I would usually look up when Greg was talking. So even though he's not here, we can blame Greg. Take care, Al. Thanks for tuning in. If you can't figure out a way to make new cars, I hate to put it this way, make new cars affordable again. But new car prices on average have nearly doubled in less than a decade. Almost doubled. If we can't have cars that sort of get these OEMs back in line, figuring it out, maybe you don't need 17 different variations of the midsize crossover. Maybe you just need 4. And you just make parts for those 4, and the economy of scale catches up, and you can do it for less money. Or these small cars that show OEMs that you don't need every single bell and whistle that has ever existed to be on a car to make it appealing to people. Alicia goes, I blame Greg for stubbing my toe today. I laughed so darn hard. That's great. It's all Greg's fault. It was so funny because, as you guys know from last week, my niece was staying with us. And she was disappointed that we didn't do the show last night because she had to go home today. And I told her it's because Greg had to work. She literally says, blame Greg for everything. And I completely unprompted, completely unknowing of the lore. It was absolutely hilarious. I laughed and she just looked at me like, well, why is that funny? Like I said, all right. And then, excuse me. Anyway, moving along to our last topic of the day. I would have my fancy graphics going through this, but I don't have my studio mode. Thank you, Streamlabs, for your most recent update. I may end up trying to figure out a workaround if I can figure out how to have 2 versions of OBS at the same time. Joe goes, Mitsubishi Mirage. It's the lightest car in the U.S. market. Give us back shit like the 90s lightweights with modern technology. You can't have both. Can't have modern tech and the lightweight of cars we used to have. Remember radios back when we were growing up? They were this big and maybe like this deep. They were tiny. Now they're basically the size of a PC. Not to mention all of the safety regulations that cars are required to have now. I just want simple. I don't need every single bell and whistle, and I think that's what you're getting at the crux of it. Because don't blame Streamlabs, blame Greg. Well, the thing is that it is actually Streamlabs' fault, because if I wanted to say, for example, the graphic, I usually have it in such a way to where you know what topic we're on and what topics we talked about and what topics are next. But if I want to do that, I have to go here. Um, Oop, that's not right. I have to go into that scene and then bring it back. Usually I have two screens, a on deck and what is actually broadcasting. And as much as I would like to blame Greg for that, uh unless he started working at Streamlabs, uh we can't. Joe goes, you can't have a GR Yaris motor in a CRX sized car. I mean, just look at hot hatches in general and how much they've just bloated over the years. Like, I'm sure you could Google it, but put a CRX next to a GR Yaris. GR Yaris or Yaris in general, is a tiny car by today's standards. Next to a CRX, it is huge. You know, I forget how many years ago it was, but it wasn't that long ago where you had a Volkswagen Golf that was twice the weight but with twice the power, and it was still considered small by the day standards of the day. I think you can do lightweight cars. It's just, is the consumer not gonna be willing to sacrifice some stuff? Like, I still maintain that if we put an option in a car, actually, you probably wouldn't do it because it probably wouldn't sell. But like Slate is trying to do this. If you just had a device that was I don't want to call it an amp, but basically a device that, I guess an amp, with a display, plug in CarPlay, poof, done. Your phone has an FM receiver, so theoretically, if you downloaded an app, you could get your local radio stations if you're one of those types of people. But companies are so worried because basically, while most people have some variation of an Android or an iPhone, there's a lot of the population that doesn't have either. So you need a base OS, which stinks, but like, I get it. But on the flip side, everybody has an 8-inch screen. Everybody has a 5-inch screen. Everybody has a 4, like, I forget what the sizing is. I guarantee you, if Ford and General Motors can come together to standardize a 10-speed automatic transmission that they put in their trucks, their pony cars, etc., they could come together to develop a head unit and screens to put in their cars. Nobody buys a Ford because they like the way the native Ford UI is on the infotainment system. Nobody cares. Oh, it's there. It does this. I'll learn it. It's fine. Or I'll just use CarPlay or Android Auto. Nobody cares. And so much money is wasted on figuring this stuff out. So many study groups are founded. Would you like the play button for your radio to be here on this side? Would you prefer it to look like a button or just the play button symbol? They spend millions of dollars trying to figure out this nonsense. And nobody cares. Chris goes, I actually saw a GR Corolla hatch and it blew past me like I was standing still. Tried to catch it and all, just couldn't. I mean, they're peppy little cars, and that little 3-cylinder engine is a very impressive piece of engineering. Because you could basically throw, I forget how much boost at it, and make 600 horsepower on the stock internals. Which for a little 1.6 liter 3-cylinder is very impressive. Especially when you consider how tiny the little fucker is. I remember when Hanson was test driving one. He brought it by, and I'm looking at the engine bay, and you could literally reach down and touch the transmission because that's how much space was in the engine bay because of this little engine. you know, by the way, Greg sends his regards. Uh, is there a way to focus? It's unifocusing. They're quick cars. There's another company that we've dealt with down in New Zealand that makes a shit ton of performance parts for them that we've had. They have an 8-second version of that car, which is absurd, especially when you consider that it's still a manual transmission. Yes, it's a sequential, and that's kind of like cheating. But in the drag racing world, you still have to launch off of a clutch, which is, yes, things like slipper clutches and all that have made it easier, but it's not as easy a proposition as it is, say, with an automatic, with torque converter and all that, where you set the revs and you come off of a button. Yeah, you have to figure out what you need to do with the stators and in the torque converter and stuff. But your foot to the floor, pow. Whereas in a manual, your foot to the floor and your other foot is like, that's one of the things and if you don't have if, let's just say hypothetically, you have like a Mustang that has launch control, if you pin it and it stays at 3,000 RPM, the second you let off the clutch, it wants to go to redline, or it wants to rev. It doesn't stay at 3,000 until it reaches a certain point of grip and then climb. So if you want to launch, say, my car, and this is why it was so difficult with the silver car to launch it, because it had cerametallic clutch or pucks on the clutch, which don't really love to be slipped, or they're less forgiving being slipped than, say, organic is. Which is why the new version of this car, when I do get a spicy clutch in it, I'm going twin disc organic, or if we're making enough torque, triple disc organic. Assuming it fits. That's the only thing I have to research. Throw that GR motor into an XFI Geo Metro. I mean, it would fit into a lot of different cars because of how tiny it is. Basically pick any sport compact from back in the day when we were growing up. It would fit in it. Figuring out a transmission, driveline, all that other sort of stuff is a completely different story. Similar to how an LS will fit damn near anywhere, or what have you. Thing was like a lightning bolt. Yeah, I mean, they're quick, and with the modern transmissions being geared the way they are, they get up and boogie. Chris goes, tell him we said it's his fault. I already did. I sent him the picture of you guys, of chat, when you guys were blaming, when Alicia blamed him for stubbing his toe and all that other sort of stuff. His exact words were many ha's, ha 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 ha, all in all caps. I'm getting shit on even when I'm not on stream. Got into a car crash today. God damn it, Greg. By the way, this is not legally binding. At any rate, let's talk about Mopar. If you watched the reel we had yesterday, yeah, something like that in your dart. Like, I mean, I have to assume those engines are a little pricey, though, for what they are. Granted, they can make a ton of power, but I'm assuming you could put a K series, do a K swap with a turbo, make 450 horsepower for half the price. Don't do that. No, he was saying, God forbid any of you had a car accident, you were going to blame Greg. Joe. But Mopar, if you saw the reel I made yesterday, you'll know that they are giving you supercharger options for every version of the Rumblebee. No, he didn't, Chris. He's just making light of it. I think he's just laughing at the fact that it's become part of the lore of this channel. You can now get a supercharger for any V8 you want, in the Rumblebee. So the 5.7, 392, or even the Hellcat, you can get a bigger blower for it. A 3-liter, I think it's a Whipple. So you can turn your base Rumblebee into a 600 horsepower mini Hellcat, or take the Hellcat and make over 900 horsepower with it. They didn't say if you need to run spicy fuel or what have you, but it's pretty insane that you can go to a dealer, flip through a catalog, and go, put that supercharger, that suspension, and that exhaust on my car, and keep your warranty. And if it's a Mopar certified dealer, they'll do the work for you, obviously at a cost. And I think it's like $17,000 for the supercharger, the exhaust, and the suspension. But why I think it's important is the fact that I know Ford does something similar with some of their dealers. I know GM has a history with the Copo catalog and stuff. But I think it's freaking awesome because, for obvious reasons, you can go modify your car, keep your warranty, and have something unique and different. Or at least from a handling, horsepower, and sound standpoint. Now, I know being offered at the dealer doesn't necessarily means it's going to be unique, because a lot of people are going to choose that option. But what I like about it is embracing the fact that we are doing something as an OEM to lean into why people like the V8 in the first place. Yeah, it's very much like the stage kits on the SRT4, Chris. And I mean, Mopar's leaned into this. Like, you have the direct connection package that you can get in conjunction with Roush that turns a regular 1500 into sort of a middle ground between a base Ram or the Power Wagon. I don't know if it's actually replacing the Power Wagon. But the Power Wagon was the off-road option that wasn't a TRX. And I think the Roush, direct connection by Roush, is going to replace it. But it's all add-ons you can buy at the dealer. And I love that fact, because again, it's an aftermarket part, so they can give you something that's a little tamer, maybe not exactly what you want, but also being good with, say, I don't want to go as far as to say like the EPA, but to say, look at this stuff. It gets decent gas mileage. It has decent emissions, yada, yada, yada. But if you're a lunatic and want the fast stuff, you can go and you can click on this catalog and say, give me that. Which is, I think, very important for the future of auto enthusiasts going forward. Especially when you consider... Now, yes, don't get me wrong. This is something that they're doing to make money. Right? Like, you could probably source the parts. The Whipples are about 11 grand usually, and lowering kits they're all priced very, very well. And you don't have to have a Mopar tech do it. It's just if you do it, you run into risks with warranty and stuff. But I just think for the future of us as enthusiasts, for spicy cars, for people who want to modify their cars, I know that this has been done through, you could catalog shop all the way back in the 60s. That's how the Copo became a thing. But I think it's cool that in this day and age that they're bringing it back. So in theory, when the Charger gets a V8, if it fits on a 5.7 in a Ram, it's probably going to fit on a 5.7 in a Charger, in a Durango. The 392, which supposedly doesn't love boost, they're saying you can get 700 horsepower out of it, which either tells me they're making the 392 stronger, or they know something we don't. So, like, not just the American companies, but imagine getting, imagine if Honda did something like this, or Toyota did something like this with the GR stuff. You could go to the GR catalog and get a bigger turbo for the Corolla, like we were talking about, or a bigger turbo for the Supra when it comes back, or more power out of a GR86. Harrop does make a positive displacement supercharger for those cars. Just saying. Yeah, the Gen 3s will take boost, but I watched a lot of videos from. I know there was a reason the 392s you didn't boost a ton. Like every boosted 392 came short of 700 horsepower. But maybe that's wheel horsepower versus crank. I don't know. Um, but like, I'd love to see him take it a step further. Go with the spicy. Whoa. That was a close strike of lightning. Didn't we supposed to get a thunderstorm tonight? Yeah, maybe. But nothing. There's anything on the radar? Ah, there's stuff in the area. All right. Oh, area. Oh, there's a system that's kind of coming by. Anywho, I saw that lightning in the reflection of the screen. Let's see here. And Chris also makes a good point. When you do the initial purchase, you can put that cost into the total cost of the vehicle. Yes, you can, and you may even be able to finance it. But, and this is a rather large but, finance companies are only going to give you what the total vehicle's worth. So theoretically, you're still going to have to put enough of a down payment to get to the total value. Now, if you go through Stellantis financing or Mopar financing or whatever the hell it's called, they may have a value. Oh, this some of the parts is $17,000. It adds $10,000 to the value of the car, meaning you don't have to cover the entire expense of it in theoretically the down payment. It's the same thing that all the stuff I'm doing to my Mustang, all the stuff I did to the silver Mustang, didn't increase its value when it comes terms to insurance companies, banks, etc. Yeah, they're blaming the lightning is Greg's fault. I don't know if he's that tall. Chris goes, yeah, we got it about an hour and a half ago. All right, interesting. But there's just so many benefits to being able to go to a dealer and say, hey, put a supercharger on it or put an exhaust on it. Now, I'd love for them to do cams. Like, imagine being able to put a cam in your Hemi. But, I don't, there's something with the Hemis that make that difficult. I know there's variable valve in some of them. I know for sure, pretty much anytime you do cams, you're probably going to have to do springs and retainers. Joe goes, send your storm this way. You got a nasty fire making air quality crap. I'd absolutely love to send the storm west, but I don't. The jet stream suddenly flipping directions might have unintended consequences. Chris goes, but when Chrysler Financial is a little bit different than your normal bank, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they may consider that the adding of those parts increase. They have a known value adder, where a normal bank might just see it as no, it's backed by the dealer, so we'll give you a little bit. But on the flip side, if they are giving quote unquote favorable terms, or they're saying, all right, you added $17,000 worth of parts onto the car or truck in this case, we're going to add that. Basically, they're going to do something with that stuff to incentivize you to use them as a financier, because believe it or not, that's where these auto manufacturers make the majority, or these dealerships make the majority of their money, is in the financing. Because yeah, they get a little bit of the profit, but if they can say make $3,000 to $5,000 on a car or a truck sale, and then get double that basically over the course of the next 3 to 6 years, and that's free money. That's why you're seeing 60 to 72 month loans now, which are absurd to me. But because it's very few vehicles retain a value, or very few vehicles retain value enough to keep pace with that. Which is why I always tell people, if you're going to get a loan, just do yourself a favor, get the gap insurance. Let's see here. Joe goes, I want it cam surge and to sound like a hog smelling pretty so. I mean, there's absolutely something to chop when it comes to putting a big ass cam in a push rod V8. Absolutely. It is one of the best things in this world. Even if I were to get, say, a spicy set of cams that required a phaser lockout, which meant they were always in the spicy state, meaning you'd sacrifice a little bit down low, but there might be overlap, which is what chop is. My Mustang will never have that sound, which I'm a little about. But the flip side, it's a lot easier to build a Stroker Coyote that revs past 8,500 than it is to do a Stroker LS that has the same RPM without going to solid lifters that require you to check the valve lash every oil change, basically. Yeah, 72% on a V6 pony car, every military adjacent dealer. I mean, yeah, but they do that because they can. Because some of these, E2, or some of these E3s, E4s get a real paycheck, so to speak, for the first time, and they enjoy spending it. And not to mention, in their shoes, I'd probably spend it too. Because might as well have yourself a fun car. If at any given moment you could be shipped off to God knows where, God knows when, with no creature comforts, somebody shooting at you, launching mortars at you, or worse, go get the fun car. Have fun. Enjoy it. You never know. Alicia goes, if I didn't have to get a new roof on my house and garage, I would cam my Camaro. Love them chopping noises. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I mean, that's like, what the hell is going on? Sorry. Steve goes, hello and good night, dad duty. Thanks for popping in, Steve. Appreciate you. It is always funny how you seem to pop in and within 10 to 15 minutes of any times we mention Hondas. It's like your bat signal, which is not a bad thing. Golly. Sorry, guys. My allergies have been something fierce today. It has been nuts. I don't know if it's the humidity. I don't know what it is. Allergies been going nuts. The value wish is 4-cylinder guys. Wish is 4-cylinder guys could get that too. I mean, let me put it to you this way. If you put a spicy enough cam in any engine, it will have some level of chop. Dual overhead cam engines don't have it nearly as much as push rods do. But let's just say you went and got an LV3, which is the 4.3 pushrod V6 from GM. That'll have chop. And that is an engine I do eventually want to play with down the road. I don't know when or what I'd put it in. Steve felt the presence of VTEC. Yep. That's why we love you, Steve. And, you're obviously a great guy, too. Mostly the VTEC. Also, just playing. That is an engine I want to play with. Again, I just don't know what I'd put it in. Let's make that the thought exercise for the end of the show tonight. Let's just because you guys demand it. There we go. Um, I'm talking about legit chop. You could get a coyote to chop by locking it in its the higher cam profile. Uh, I am moral for moral, religious, and political reasons. I'm very much against that. Um, brap brap. I mean, yeah. I mean, just by the nature of a rotary's design, it has the appearance of chop. Let's see here. Let's see. Chris goes, with me, the multi-air brick just won't allow for that kind of cam. Multi-air. Oh, okay. Is that we'll call it Stellantis 4-cylinder? I believe that is. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's hard to get that kind of chop out of a dual overhead cam engine just because of the nature of it. But there are some Mustangs out there that have a more aggressive idle. It's not the blah 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 of an LS or an old school V8. But it'll have a more aggressive idle. Theoretically speaking, I may go down that route with cams, just locking the phaser out. I don't know. I have to do some research on it because I don't want the car to feel slow in that 3 to 6,000 RPM range. That being said, having it rev all the way out to 85, I know down low it's got to be. There's no free lunches, so down low it's not going to be as powerful as it otherwise would be. Um, so maybe I gotta adjust my expectation from 3 to 6 to 4 to 7, which fine by me. As long as it's good there, that I'm down for it. Because coyotes make power up high anyway. My supercharged Mustang with the centrifugal made power up high, just the nature of those superchargers and stuff. Because there just isn't a performance program for my engine. Some engines are like that. I mean, you know, it sucks. Like, don't get me wrong. Um, but I'm actually kind of surprised there isn't something over in Europe, which I get it, adds complexity and expense. The Volvo guys know that all too well. Uh, Good luck. Zero demand. The also is due to get. What engines are they doing it on, Joe? Oh, it's tuning. They're doing it with the ignition and timing, I believe. Yeah, I mean, and it's a simulated cam. It's like a ghost cam. Look, I understand why people want it. I don't bemoan people who do it. For me, it would always bug me. Um, it would always bug me that it's not real. I've always been real, right? Like, uh, to a fault, because uh, I that often costs more. Uh, so like if that's something you want, great, cool. If that gets you into your car, fine. It's just, like I said, I have that tick that basically says if it's not real, I'll always know and it'll bug me. It just is what it is. Um, Chris goes for options on his 2.4 liter for the Dart. My options: aluminum pulleys, portal throttle body, and exhaust. Does that exhaust include headers? Like, does somebody out there make like a log manifold? I'd be interested to. I'm sure you could put low boost on that engine. Um, but obviously that probably would require some fab work. And I don't even. I mean, this all assumes that that ECU is flashable, which it may not be, because a lot of. I mean, shit. Ford, when they launched the S550 ECU, the new F150 that just came out this year, last year, the Coyote ECUs in that, they were locked for a while, which is annoying. But so if there's not an aftermarket demand for it, I could kind of see why it would be why that being a limiting factor. Because who wants to wire a standalone ECU for an engine that may or may not make good power? Um, Pro charge it. I don't even know if they're making centrifugal superchargers for 4 cylinders anymore. It'd be more than half the cost of what I paid for the car. That's also true. And I get it. We all have to be adults about this stuff. I totally get that. Um, if you did retail on all the mods I did on the Volvo, we are right at, I think it was almost double what I paid for the car. And with the Silver Mustang, all of the mods totaled up to the same price as the car. Perks of not having kids, being being single, having not having a wife telling me I can't do something or what I need to save my money for. Um, I suppose, and also the perks of being doing shifting lanes. Like when I had the C30, I had a pretty good sweetheart deal with Elevate. You know, that was a great experience. Oh, like 99% of the experience was great, right up until that last 1%. Um, yes, I like how ProCharger has become the slang for a centrifugal supercharger. Um, really, that's interesting. I didn't know they made them for bikes. Although now I'm intrigued. Uh, Very intrigued. Uh, Here's the thing. I'm like, let's just use Chris's car as an example, right? Like, let's just say hypothetically, he came into a dump truck full of money and decided that that dump truck of money was going to go at least a portion of it into his Dart, as realistic or unrealistic as that may or may not be. Do those engines have? Is the intake manifold in the front or the back on those engines? That's number one. Um, because if you're throwing boost at it, 4 cylinders supercharged are great. They're cool, but you're starting with a 4 cylinders, so they don't. Torque is an issue. Uh, Now again, it's really cool. Those John Cooper's Works supercharged minis were epic. Some of the most fun, and if you get those blowers ported, you can make some decent power. And granted, it was a positive displacement blower, but having a little bit of blower whine, juxtaposition of 4 cylinder growl was pretty damn cool. Um, it's just Again, assuming the situation I listed for Chris in that car, the turbo may be an option. Or, I mean, there's got to be. I wonder. There's a family of multi-air engines, right, Chris? If I'm not mistaken. Like, isn't the what's the engine? The little tiny engine in the 124. That's a multi-air engine. I'm curious what the differences are in those engines. Is there a wow. Okay. Never mind. The 1.4 and the 2.4. They yeah, and I sincerely doubt they share a head or head design, because it would, and not for nothing, a 2 point, almost doubling the amount of air coming out of the exhaust probably would explode that tiny little adorable little turbo that's already undersized for the engine it's in because of the way it makes torque. At any rate, anywho, I think that is a good. Yeah, a friend of mine has the 124 with that little turbocharged engine, and just the way it makes torque lends me to believe they took the Volvo line of thinking and putting an undersized turbo on it so it's snappy, responsive, and makes torque down low, or at least in the area where most people drive. But they don't share anything. That's a bummer. Well, here's a thought. What if you put the turbo 1.4 into your Dart? Totally kidding. Don't do that. That bad idea. I'm going to call it a wrap on this one, guys. Hopefully we're back next Wednesday. Hopefully Greg is with us. I just want to again thank everyone for watching, sharing, commenting. When we do these solo shows, you guys being active in chat is such a huge thing. It makes the show go by easier. It's easier to talk. Gives me something to talk about instead of just me like reading a book report for you on topics I find interesting. So I appreciate y'all. And we'll catch you guys in